Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefühl. We're here at the Terramar racetrack in Barcelona, Spain, to watch the new unveiling of the all-new Ateca Cupra, but also the brand new CUPRA brand. We've come outside so we can take a closer look at the Ateca. There's about 1 million journalists in there, and the one inside, fortunately nobody told them there was one outside as well. So let's have a look and see what they've done with the styling. Well, they've decided that what they want is to make sure that nobody is not going to know that the styling has changed. This is a completely new bumper. It has to be, because we have widened air intakes here to cope with the fact that we have a much larger engine inside. The entire chassis for this car has been redeveloped, which makes it slightly lower on the road. Always a problem at world premieres. We'd never have quite enough numbers and figures for you. We'll obviously be able to provide you with a lot more later, but for now you can see that the styling has definitely changed the front of the Ateca to make it much bolder and much more aggressive. You know, I have to say again, I'm not completely convinced by the logo, but I like the idea that it is two C's that have been folded over each other for Cupra. And it does certainly look new. Will it be a classic in time? Well, only time will tell, but for now, I'm really interested to know what you guys think. If that's your first look at the Cupra logo, would you like to see one of those on the front or the back of your car? I don't know, but I'm not ready to make a judgment yet. What I will say is, it really has made the Ateca quite something to look at. The Ateca is a fantastic car. That entire segment within the market is doing nothing but growing all the time. This is an increasingly popular style of vehicle, and this one in particular has fantastic sales response so far in the market. So it was only going to be a matter of time before Seat said, come on, let's do a Cupra version. There really isn't another vehicle I can think of at this price point in this class that's going to provide you with that kind of extra aggressive driving. This comes equipped with a 300 horsepower engine that will provide you with 400 Newton meters of torque. That's a 4-cylinder, and I'm really looking forward to giving it a try. Here we can see the brand new, just for this car, 19-inch rims. And if Thomas can show you just between the spokes here, this has the Brembo brakes package on as well. Now that's optional, that doesn't automatically come with the Cupra. But I think if you're going to spend the extra money to get a Cupra, you've got to spend a bit more to get the brakes package as well. Looking at the side in profile, again, as with the front, we have a much more aggressive feel to the design overall than with the standard Ateca. I think it works. It's not too overblown. Obviously, you're always going to have a bit of a trade-off when you're saying, well, we designed this car to be larger so it can fit more people, more equipment, more spacious feel on the inside, whilst trying to make it look small, aggressive and sporty on the outside. The reason that Cupra has been so successful with the Ibiza, with the Leon, these are small cars. So you're essentially making a hot hatch in order to really drive around and have some fun in. It was always going to be a question as to how well that styling was going to sit with this class of vehicle. I'm actually pretty pleased. I don't think that you would be embarrassed to drive this around, by which I mean a lot of the time if the car looks sportier than the car actually is, and anyone who's my kind of age will remember the RS Cosworth and people driving around in that who really look as if they shouldn't have been driving one. This car is not going to embarrass you turning up to school. And I think people who don't know what you're driving won't understand the power that you have. So you can drive it nice and sedately when everybody else is watching and then really enjoy what it can deliver when you're by yourself. Coming through to the back, again, we have the brand new logo and we have a redesigned rear as well. We have an air diffuser, new for this car, and 4 exhaust ports back here. I don't know if I'm as convinced with the back. Because they've made this lower lip black, which is not unusual for a car, but it's slightly elevated, it does tend to make it look as if the entire car rear disappears from this point. It will be pretty interesting to see this at night time to see how it looks. In the meantime, you've got acres of space underneath that, sort of suggesting you might take some off-road excursions, probably not too dramatic, but still. Obviously, these lovely standard lights back here with the CUPRA C built in, which you can see. The styling is very reminiscent of the Ateca, maybe the Ateca on steroids. Quick note on performance, this car will go up to 245 kilometers per hour. And in terms of comparing what this engine delivers for this car with its slightly different profile, we have 0 to 100 kilometers in 5.4 seconds. I think that's actually pretty good, given that the exact same engine will only deliver 4.9 seconds in its more familiar setting. So a lot more car, and really not that much cost in terms of performance. Let's take a look inside. Okay, so they haven't changed too much, too drastically with the interior of this car. They want you to know it's a Cupra, but it still very much feels like an Ateca. We do have nice details throughout the car, like this carbon fiber effect steering wheel here and this special copper stitched steering wheel. We have a 7-speed DSG coming standard with this car. I have to be honest, the styling, whilst being discreet, really doesn't say a great deal more to me than the original Ateca did. Not a huge amount has changed here. We do have special seats, however, and they're very comfortable to sit in. In 2019, they're going to be available as bucket seats, but really, bucket seats for this car might be overdoing it just a little bit. We've got a very recognizable dashboard, and our friendly infotainment system looks very familiar from a very wide line of different Volkswagen Group cars. It's spacious, it's clean, it's uncluttered. It's just not quite anything immediately to love. I think really the proof of this car is going to be in the drive. That's certainly always been my feeling about the Leon Cupra and also the Cupra Ibiza. If you only sit in them, you think, I don't know. But the second you drive them, it all starts to make a lot of sense. That's not to say there's anything wrong with the interior. It's roomy, it's spacious. I've got plenty of everything I need. There's just not, to my way of thinking, anything immediately to fall in love with about this car. I think we've just got to drive it. So what is new for this car, other than the many bleeps, is the new virtual cockpit that we have here. That's really nicely delivered. It's not too intrusive. It certainly doesn't strike you immediately when you get in the car that it's different from the previous analog layout. They haven't really tried to radically overhaul this. Just deliver a really good quality display that isn't in any way obtrusive or upsetting. Now, in terms of being able to make this your own display, as you can see, we can change between different views, which allows us a bit more freedom in terms of how we interact with the display. It's nice. It's not particularly going to change my world, but I do like having the flexibility that this provides. And as I said, from having seen multiple other digital cockpits that really do look a little obtrusive, it's nice to see that they've gone with something subtle that just doesn't stand out too much, but does give you the information that you need. The entire driving experience here is nice too. I've got a very good road position. The seat, as I mentioned already, is very comfortable, and I like the materials that it's made from. We have this carbon effect down here, leatherette, and then this lovely soft touch Alcantara in the middle. And I think that that's going to put up with quite a lot of wear and tear without looking in any way other than it does today, hopefully, he said. So, okay, it's not the most exciting interior ever designed, but there are some nice features in this car. That really changes the interior space significantly, especially for backseat passengers. I have never owned a full glass panoramic roof, but honestly, I think if I did, this would be the car I'd want to own one in. The whole car feels more light and spacious already, and allowing you this really does add to that feeling. And it makes it feel a bit more special, which I really am going to want. So, let's take a look in the back and see how it feels. Well, the first thing you notice back here is the space. I have to tell you, these seats are absolutely superb. If you notice, they've got little indents, much in the same way that you'd expect to see this support feature in front seats. They've included it here in the back. And that means when I sit back here, just adjust the headrest with my shoulders, I actually feel genuinely very comfortable, and that's a very nice experience to have in the back of a car. I'm 5'10" in height, or 178 centimeters. As you can see, even with the panoramic roof, I have more than enough space at my head. And even though I have very short legs, it has to be said, look at this. Plenty of leg room. More than enough room. Thomas is laughing right now because I originally got in the back of this car and said, oh, it's not so much leg room, but then he pointed out that the front seat hadn't been adjusted properly, and I was trying to fit into a space that wasn't quite designed for a person. So if you can hear his laughter, that's why. Let's have a look and see what else is back here. So we've got 2 USB charge points. They're most commonly going to be used for mobile phones, so let's see how that works. You might be able to see that little symbol of a mobile phone there. Oh, I'm going to pop my phone in there. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about that. It doesn't really feel like a quality addition to me. Sorry about that. But it is nice that at least they are thinking of extra things that backseat passengers might like. I like the conservative and discreet styling of the door. This Alcantara soft touch panel's lovely. It is a bit of a contrast to all of this plastic, but that is very usual for the car at what the price point will be. They have to save money somewhere, and Seat have always had a really good reputation for delivering a lot for not too much money. So hopefully when the pricing comes out, this car will fit that mode as well. Now, in terms of being able to relax and enjoy your drive back here, we have 2 controls. They're operated from one for heating and cooling, and then we have small pockets in the back. But come on, let's not kid ourselves. This is a Cupra. Who cares what your backseat passengers think? This is about driving. So I want to be more comfortable in the front, and I am more comfortable in the front. And frankly, I want to make my backseat passengers think, oh, I'm in the wrong place. And I think this car's going to achieve that. So we have been a little bit time limited today, and we haven't had an opportunity to really dig into it and find out whether or not we can get numbers and give you some real details on this car. So hopefully we'll have that to bring to you very soon. But we were so keen to be able to show you this world premiere as quickly as we possibly could. This has been the Seat Ateca Cupra, or as it will be known, the CUPRA Ateca. I hope you've enjoyed having a look as much as we've enjoyed showing it to you. Let's take a look under the hood and see how the Cupra engine fits inside the Ateca. Oh well, come on. You could have given me gas struts. Well, obviously we have a more generous engine bay here than on the Leon, and you can see that there's a lot more room for this engine to fit in. It looks really good in this car. I'm not such a fan when they are a bit too compact and you feel that there's no room. I think that harks back to previously when I would have liked to have tried to at least done some of the work myself. Obviously you can't do that so much anymore, but I still like the space to be able to get my hands around and just check that things are as they should be. That's a nice layout. That looks more than happy in there, and I think promises some very exciting things on the drive. The Cupra brand is all about uniqueness. So what do you think? Have they done enough with this styling to differentiate it from the standard model? Well, it's very nice to see that the changes are subtle and discreet, but is it distinct enough? I'm really keen to hear what you think. So here we can see the mode selector for the drive, and as you can see we've got a nice different range of features here. Seat are very enthusiastic to point out to us that this car is designed to go off-road. Obviously we won't really know what that means or how much off-road until we actually get to test it, but it's nice to see the minimal way in which they've allowed us access to these different driving modes. And if my experience of driving the Tiguan is anything to go by, they really work well, especially the snow mode. It's surprising what a difference that makes in terms of the drive. So I'm really keen to see how that will work in conjunction with the Cupra engine. So obviously we have to hold all of this power in check, and to do that we have a 7-speed DSG gearbox and of course 4-wheel drive. Seat have been kind enough to put one of their brand new CUPRA Atecas out on the track here at Terramar, and I think that will really help us to get an idea of how the styling looks outside in its natural environment. On this Cupra, we have the opportunity to see how some of the different seating looks. Again, it's still very sporty. I really like this carbon fiber effect on the side. Again, we have the fake leather followed by the Alcantara center. Very comfortable still, very stylish, and really in keeping with the car. We're not only here for the Ateca today, it's also the launch of the brand Cupra. Let's find out a little bit more. So we're not always lucky enough to be joined by the most important people at press events because there's so many people that want to speak to everybody. But we have the person who we really need to be speaking to. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. This is a very exciting day. This, in the future, will be known as Cupra Day. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's Cupra Day. That's a day we worked long time for, because it's not only Cupra Day where we show the new brand, it's also Cupra Day where we show the new CUPRA Ateca. And I can tell you it's a fantastic car, and therefore we are very happy.
It's a very bold move to separate the Cupra brand from the Seat brand, and a very big statement of trust in that idea. What were the thinking behind making that decision?
No, the thinking behind is, first, is that we say Cupra is extremely important for the Seat brand. Cupra is important, the Cupra models are important, and the Cupra, that means the motorsport, is very important. And to emphasize that more and to give it a really clear own identity within the Seat group or the Seat brand, we decided to create that Cupra brand in order to bring together the motorsport and the sporty cars, and therefore we decided to bring it together.
Now, Cupra obviously stands for Cup and Racing, and it has a long history of producing the sportier versions of some cars that we really love. A lot of the presentation today featured the word unique and uniqueness. What do you think Cupra will be standing for as a brand by itself?
Yeah, unique is absolutely, it's a point. I come back to that. It's basically unique. it's sophistication. Sophistication means really love to the detail, precision, crafted in the garage, handcrafted, and it's performance. Cupra has to be performance. A car has to drive perfectly. That means it's not only horsepower, but it's the agility, it's a chassis setup, it's a brake. All that means performance has to be in. Unique for me, CUPRA Ateca is the best example to be unique. It's not only unique in design. No, that's a car you don't get in the competition. Because an SUV combined really with the sport genes, for that price in that segment is without competition. You can get competitive cars to that, but that are in the really premium league and costing twice as much like our car. And therefore I think we have a very nice offer. And this offer is good for daily drive. It's good. You can bring your kids to the kindergarten or to the school. You can go to work. You can go shopping. With the same car, you can go on a racetrack. And with the CUPRA Ateca, you cannot only do that. With the same car, you can go also off-road, because it's an off-road. You don't believe it, but you can go off-road as well with that car. And therefore, it's a fantastic combination. Unique.
Now, we talk a lot about the growth in terms of segment for this style of vehicle and the importance of developing the SUV in terms of the growth market. But it's still quite a gutsy decision to go ahead and say, we're going to go one step further and we're going to produce a sports model of this SUV. And certainly, as you say, at this price point, that's something of undiscovered territory. What do you hope to deliver to the customer with this car that you aren't already delivering between the hot hatch versions of the Cupra and the Ateca as it currently stands?
Now, what we want to deliver, I try to answer from my personal perspective, because I'm an absolute believer and lover of the Cupra. I only drive Cupra. I drive it also in Germany. It's a fantastic car. If I drive with my Leon Cupra, it's a fantastic car, very agile, and it's great for driving. But for example, if I take my family, or sometimes if I drive, I would like to sit a little bit higher. If I want to have really that car a little bit more for daily use, more comfortable from the seating position, then an SUV is a good choice. And if you want to combine the SUV with the sporty element, you arrive basically in that car. And as Jordi Genet, our brand ambassador and race driver for us, said today, that's a Cupra, that's a SUV you will not find so much or you will not find anywhere else. It's the handling and all that is you have to drive the car. It's fantastic, yeah, with no rolling and so on, very agile, and therefore I think it's an outstanding combination.
Well, I must tell you, one of the features that I really enjoy about Seat is its appeal right across the board to a wide spectrum of different users. I absolutely love the Cupra brand. My mother, I hope she's not watching, recently bought a new car, and I tried to convince her that the Seat Ibiza was the way to go for her. She's over 70. I took her out for a test drive and she said, it doesn't quite give me enough of what I want. And I said, I have the car for you, the CUPRA Ibiza. I tried so hard to sell her this car. She loved it. She absolutely loved it. But I think maybe it was a bit too much for her. But it just shows you how you can synergize sports and utility as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could not add any more. You said it fantastic. It's like that, yes.
Brilliant. So one more question for you. What is your favorite feature about this car?
I think the favorite feature is the total setup of the car. Is the uniqueness. It's the optics. It's not only one thing. It's a combination of that. The car never is done by one thing. It's a combination of the outstanding Ateca combined with the sporty agility, with the optical things which makes the car also to a Cupra, especially if you look to the rear, to the 4 exhaust pipes, very sporty. To sit in that nice bucket seats, go comfortable long way, have fun and have an agile car, and even in city with a high seating position, a very easy to drive, very sovereign to drive a car. That's a combination. It's not just one thing, it's a combination of that.
You know, I said one more thing, but I'm going to be cheeky and put 2 more quick questions in there. The first one, which I think a lot of our viewers will be very keen to hear, is that Cupra as a brand has been very distinct in terms of what it delivers before. Is there a concern in Seat that the brand will be diffuse with the introduction of so many more models in the future? Will it be able to maintain its identity, do you think?
Definitely yes. Definitely yes. We will do all. We define the Cupra ingredients very clear. And a Cupra will be a Cupra every time with these 3 things: uniqueness, sophistication, and for me, most important, also performance. And with that, it's very clearly defined.
Okay, well, I think that just about says it all. One last question. I promise this is the last one. Very excited to hear about your plans for electrification moving into the future. Now, do you see that as something that offers new opportunities for the Cupra brand, or do you see it as something that's more indicative of just how the market is moving generally in terms of what it's demanding?
Now, basically it's both. We know it's developing in the more electrification direction, the market, but for me as a development guy, we take all that anytime as an opportunity. That means if we make electrification or if we make a plug-in hybrid, it has to be like a Cupra. That means it has to drive like a sports car. It has to create this fantastic feeling when you drive the car. It has to be passionate, and that means for us it's a challenge to make the car that's something special and unique.
Well, thank you so much for having us here today. It's been really amazing to take a look at the new Cupra brand and its models, and we're very, very excited to give them a try.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Thank you.
So as much as we want to, I don't think they're going to let us drive this one around the racetrack today. So let's take a look at one of the other Cupras and see what they're like. Today's big story is all about the Ateca Cupra, but Seat are very, very keen that they want to explain to us what they're doing with the Cupra brand and how that will evolve in the future. As we got introduced to earlier, the concept of the Cupra has always been evolving ever since it first came about 20 years ago. Now, you might be able to see behind me, we're here at the Terramar racetrack, and this was in fact the first place that Spain ever held a Formula One race. At the time, there were only 4 of these tracks in the entire world. Sadly, as you can probably see, it's not really suitable for racing anymore, but it is a beautiful piece of Spanish motor racing history and a very nice venue to have picked to explain what's happening with the Cupra brand. Traditionally, Seat has launched Cupra in very limited different iterations, only to demonstrate what the sporty, more agile versions of a car might be. It's been getting increasingly more popular. So much so, in fact, that since 2012, they have doubled their sales volume right across this particular line. In recognition of that, they are completely separating the Cupra brand from Seat. So it will stand separate. It will have its own headquarters, it will produce its own model lineup, and it's going after its own customer profile. You might think that's a bit risky, but I think the research behind it speaks for itself. They are very sensitive about the fact that they do not want to lose any of their existing customers, so they're making that transition soft and gentle. But they do want to make some pretty big statements to start. We are standing here in front of the CUPRA R ST. Now, if you're a fan of the estate version of the Golf R, and you think, why on earth aren't there more cars like this? I think that's the gap that we're looking at right here. According to the brand statement from Seat, what they're trying to do is fill a market need that really isn't being covered by anyone at the moment. In particular, a top performance version of their cars, which is not outrageously expensive. Certainly that's how they feel about the Ateca Cupra, is that there really is nothing else that sits at that price point and at that performance level. I'm very excited about that, and I'm also very excited about this. We can't show you too much of this today other than the styling, because we're not here to show you this car, so we can't have access to it, but we do get to have a nice look round, and it shows us some very interesting features of the new styling design. If I can get Thomas to come round to the back, let me show you this. So you will be hearing a lot from Seat in future about their copper lettering. This is their new design look. Over time, they have a completely new logo for the Cupra line, which you'll be seeing more and more of. Don't tell anyone, it looks a bit like Transformers logo. But for now, because they want to make sure that their customer base understands they're not doing away with the Cupra, we stick with the traditional Seat logo, but now in copper for the Cupra line. Well, I've always been a big fan of Cupras. I think that they represent a lot of car at their price point without trying to convince you that they're something other than what they actually are. A perfect example of that would be the Ateca Cupra. You sit in that, you don't feel that you're in something other than an Ibiza, but it's like a refined Ibiza. And I hope that with this change, they won't be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I really want to retain the DNA, the DNA of the car when you drive it. There is a lot more design that's gone into this in terms of making it unique by way of a brand than I think a lot of the predecessors. And the reason for that is to form the new, unique brand identity. Will it work? Well, we'll have plenty of opportunity to find out. There are plans to launch lots of models, at least 7 within the next 2 years. And not only new models, but they're also pursuing new technology, because we'll also be seeing those models available by 2020 as plug-in hybrids as well. That sounds pretty exciting to me. So you've bought the concept, you like the brand, you want to buy one. Where are you going to get one from? Well, Seat are going to create 265 specialist areas within their showrooms across Europe. That represents about 20% of their existing showrooms, in which they will have special areas that focus on Cupra and also special dedicated sales and service teams that know everything about the brand. Now, it's a difficult area. Marketing means that it's very difficult for people to find enough superlatives to describe the vision for their new product or brand. Seat, I think every brand, when they launch a new car, will repeat one word over and over and over again, because their marketing department has identified that as the key thing they want to go with their brand. In the case of the Cupra, that is clearly uniqueness. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you want to increase sales volume, uniqueness can be a bit of a problem. Seat's answer to that is that what they want to do is to offer the Cupra as a brand as an all-encompassing thing. So not just the cars, they think that this speaks to individuals and unique people, and because of that they want to look at them culturally in terms of events that are Cupra events and things that Cupra people would understand. I think that's a bit of a risky strategy, because in my experience it's the customers who determine those niche special markets. A perfect example would be Beatle lovers, you know, where you go to Beatle festivals throughout Europe. Whenever brands try and manufacture that kind of identity themselves, it doesn't always work. So it is going to be interesting to see how this pans out. And I think a perfect example of that was during the presentation, where we had explained to us that the way that you would know how you could identify a Cupra person would be that amongst the cars, when you buy one, you will be given a Cupra bracelet, which kind of looks a little bit like carbon fiber with the Cupra logo on it, so that you would be recognizable as part of the Cupra clan. Well, to me, that's a little antithetical, because if you're the kind of person who wants to identify with being unique and individual, I don't know that you're going to want to wear a branded bracelet. But I do respect the fact that Seat really are trying hard to make sure that they're providing a good future for this brand by thinking about all of the customers' needs, not just the product. Okay, so you like Seat, you like Cupra, but you still have a few more coins burning a hole in your pocket. What could you do with them? Well, how about this? Look familiar to anyone? So, obviously, this is the racing edition of the Leon Cupra, around about just coming up on 2 years old, and already 225 have been snapped up by racing teams, and so far the results have been very impressive. Unfortunately, again, I don't think we're going to get to drive this today, but wow, take a look. It really does go to show you exactly what you can achieve with a standard road production car if you don't have such a problem with money. Let's take a look inside. Wow. Well, obviously, this is a car after my own heart. For all the talk that we often put in as to how regular cars feature lots of things that maybe don't need to be there, obviously there is nothing on this car that doesn't need to be there. That is a seat designed for racing. Minimum weight and maximum security for the driver. The controls, obviously a little bit different to your regular Leon. We have everything that we need right there on the steering wheel, gear stick, and obviously ability to change gears really quite a lot faster than you would find in a standard car. Everything stripped back, but still recognizable. You look at that dashboard, you can still see the ID of the original car in it, and even the details on the door are very reminiscent. Maybe not so much the roll cage, but definitely the carbon fiber molding. Now that's a spoiler. Downforce is everything, especially if you're going to be taking multiple S-bends in one of these things. And obviously the standard equipment that comes with the car doesn't quite cut it. So there are lots of modifications going on here to just about everything. It's really nicely finished. What really is pleasing to me is the way that this car in its natural state takes on this style so well. It just really makes you want to drive it. With the launching of the Cupra brand, it can be a little bit difficult to see where they got the inspiration from in terms of developing their identity, and I think this car expresses it beautifully. When you look at the logo on the back of this car, suddenly it makes sense. That is really something that you want. And if you look through to the sculptural styling on the side, well, with racing cars, obviously everything is function over form, but it's very pleasing to see just how much styling this car has managed to embrace. This really suits the Cupra brand, and for me, demonstrates everything about what it is they're wanting to achieve with their production cars. If this is anything to go by, I think we have an awful lot to look forward to. We're out here on the track now at Terramar with the Ateca Cupra, and I think this is actually a really good place to be showing you this car because we have a perfect mix of the old and the new. This racetrack is absolutely stunning. Can you imagine how it felt in the 20s to be driving test cars, essentially Formula One cars, round this track as fast as they would go, with no protective equipment whatsoever, no crash helmets, no stability systems, and very limited steering. It really does show you just how much guts the racing pioneers had. Obviously, we have an awful lot more technology with the Ateca Cupra. Sadly, we can't drive the track. We'd very much like to, though. But I think it represents the way that the vehicle has developed over time and the brand has developed. The Cupra is now ready to stand by itself as a brand, and this is the first vehicle that they want to show us. I think it's going to be very, very exciting to drive. Certainly, if we could, we'd drive it here. I don't think we're going to have that opportunity, but it's nice to see what the future holds for us and for the Cupra. Until next time, if you have any comments or questions, please put them below. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope we'll see you again soon.